It's been a while since I could hold my head up high, and it's been a while since I said I'm sorry. Whoa, whoa. It's been a while since I could say that I wasn't addicted. And it's been a while since I first saw your smiling face, so standing there, and everything I can't remember. Whoa. Howdy, folks. Just messing with my audio there. Hopefully it's coming in a little bit clearer. I accidentally forgot to plug back in my microphone, so it recorded through my computer on my last 2 minutes of recording, but that's okay. That's okay. So, yeah, a lot of people are talking about Alex Jones. A lot of people are talking about Ozempic Jones. And I really don't like Alex Jones. I've really never liked Alex Jones. I've never liked his energy. He's always seemed like a cokehead, and I don't like cokeheads. He's always seemed like an absolute lunatic. And not in the cool and fun way, but in the genuinely scary and keep your kids away from him way. And legitimately, to anybody who can take parents that just lost their children, literally the worst experience that life is capable of, and think that it's worth dragging them, you know, to appease your online hooting masses, and which are mostly bots and international, probably like government agents, to trigger the libs. Degenerates like you belong on a cross, all right? Like, seriously, fuck that. Anybody who makes fun of the parents who have lost their children to school shooting is, like, worse than scum. That's, like, pedophile level of you don't give a shit and you just want to damage people who are vulnerable. Fuck you. Fuck Alex Jones. Anyways, a lot of the early great Christian scholars, they actually studied with heretical sects, funny enough. Oh, and speaking of which, Alex Jones was only ever good when he went to Bohemian Grove, right? And I'm not talking about when I say Bohemian Grove, that's not the same thing that I'm talking about when I talk about Bohemian history. But it is the same thing that I talk about when I talk about gay-ass Freemason parties. Exactly what Nixon said, which is it's the gayest, faggiest shit he's ever seen. That's a Nixon quote. Paraphrasing there. But, yeah. That's the highest level shit that you can go to, and the lower level shit is like sticky stag floor parties where everything smells and there's old guys waiting to get sucked off. That is your life as a Mason. I hope you understand that, because it's like theater kids that are ruling our country for a period of time, and those theater kids are like groomed in those circles, and the highest aspirations is to go to Bohemian Grove and do some gay theater kid shit. But back to the early Christian patrician scholars, a lot of them studied with Donatists, a lot of them studied with various heretical sects, and they would like those heretical sects would be declared heretical, while the works of Augustine and Jerome would be brought into the canon of the church. And I always thought that was fascinating because, well, I've talked about the Bogolamists and how they did nothing wrong, and they were purged anyways. And that started a lot of the conflicts of the Balkans. You know, the Balkanization started real early with the persecution of the Bogolamists. It isn't just like a mix of Yamnaya and Dalmatian and Celt, because there was a presence there. It had to be in order to make it to the Galatians, those are a band of Celtic people that had managed to make it all the way to central Anatolia that were definitively Celtic people. So I don't know why the persecutions happen, other than my guess is that they felt like they extracted everything they needed, and then they took the power away from the people that could have manifested it without the Vatican and destroyed them. That is exactly what I was talking about yesterday when I was saying that the Greeks, they laid the foundation for global culture, but they never wanted to enact it because it would mean enacting an egalitarian that was considered disgusting to the Greek mind, whereas the Roman mind, which is just pure concrete, like just flat garbage. Well, not even garbage. It's like even garbage can be turned into something other than like dust. But the Roman mind, which is flat, said, hold my beer. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll flatten out everything else. It'll suit me perfectly. That's what they said. Hey, it is what it is, you know. I hope that this ancient Roman shit never revives itself, and if Pete Hegseth's the mightiest warrior that the Crusader Kings guys have, then we're good. We're fine. We really don't have to worry about that. That guy's a bundle of contradictions. Bundle of contradictions. Like, hardcore contradictions that do not make sense at all. Hardcore contradictions that just show a hypocrisy of a person who has spent most of his life thinking the Confederacy aren't ravenous traitors who are looking to stab anyone in the back because they are just full of pain and deceit. It's as simple as that. That's what what was channeled into them by their overlords, and they willingly took it with a smile on their face as long as they could hate the people up north, who have much, much more difficult lives than them because they have to deal with the snow. But Confederates don't care about that. Confederates don't care about the fact that they actually have every ability to have a higher army, but they didn't because they decided to treat a lot of people, human beings, under their care as if they were dirt. They get what they deserve at the end of the day. It's a terrible line. They get what they deserve. It's a line uttered by freaks who could never understand Quixote. But it is what it is. That is the line of the moment. Keemstar is like Hillary Clinton of the sector. He is like the Hillary Clinton of the sector because he said the N-word once, and now nobody will shut the fuck up about him. And he's super annoying, and he's super incapable, yet people still hoot and holler like he's super capable. Like, oh, you gotta look out for Keemstar. Hell, wreck your shit. No, he will not. He completely relies on channeling routes that have already been dug by other people. He is completely and utterly inept. And I don't think that with the addition of AI, that LA creep will be able to cook anything complex up anytime soon. You know, casinos give new users money, so what's stopping them from operating a bunch of bots and saying more people are gambling now? I think that's actually a lot of what these metrics are showing, is that they are pumping their own, like, liquidity. They're pumping their own market in order to show higher shares, but in reality, Americans are not gambling more under the Biden years. It's just nobody's watching the ship, nobody's checking the metrics. It's as simple as that. I knew everything bad about Trump in 2017, like genuinely. By the 2018, I knew everything bad about Trump. I knew, and I could list them out, but I'd rather not. I just know that this time around, it's much, much better. People are concerned. People are a little worried. People are a little anxious. People are looking at $500 billion to AI. People are looking at let Israel do whatever they want. People are looking at the mRNA vaccines. But it's war with Iran, I think, is genuinely off the table compared to 4 years of Democrat whoever. War with Russia is the highest possibility, but as I said before, you know, Trump and Putin and Trump can insult each other all they want, as long as they come to a conclusion at the end of the day that involves peace for both nations, which has been historically contingent. Trump's just probably a little... He watches news too much, so he ends up with celebrity brain, and that messes him up and makes him think that people that aren't worth anything are actually worth something. And so the people screaming Russiagate actually caught his attention. That's a problem, but it's not a terminal problem because it's obvious that he cares more about preventing nuclear conflict than a little bit of reputational damage. And China, trust me, China is fine. They're fine on their own. They're not going to fuck us up. Like all the shit that the mainstream media was lying about, we're trying to lie to Joe Biden's failing brain about Chinese motherships, AI drones traveling faster than the speed of light. You know, shit like that. That was just a bunch of bullshit. Bunch of fucking bullshit that they tried to scare Biden into attacking a major country with in his last days. China's fine. And Trump and Xi are on like a mutual respect level, and that's real good, you know. That's real good. Not pardoning Chauvin is based. He beat a 14-year-old with a flashlight until that little boy required stitches. He shot like 5 people, killed a couple. He's got 18 official complaints, only 2 of which were acted on. Funny how that works. And he got a police commendation medal, which apparently you can get from anything, for bouncing a nightclub where he worked with George Floyd. And the owner of that nightclub said that he was particularly aggressive towards black people. But no, my precious little boy, he's a precious little guy. No, fuck Chauvin, and fuck you if you fucking like him. Fuck them both. Fuck George Floyd and fuck Chauvin. George Floyd was a fucking monster. This fucking, like, low IQ sex addict who put a gun to a pregnant woman's stomach. He's a fucking freak. Fuck him. You know, Europe has been a refugee zone for people fleeing from the wars the U.S. wages. And the fact that Trump says, not our war, bye-bye, is good. That's wonderful. And the fact that he makes the calls and not, you know, the Crusader King guy in the Pentagon, well then, there's less to worry about in that case. He could fire Hegseth at any time that he wanted. And everybody else is like way better than the Bush people he brought into the first term. It's looking good. It's looking good. It's been a while since I could say that. But yeah, let's pull out of NATO. Let's stop fucking with their shit. Let's stop making them a gigantic refugee zone. You know why Europe is disarmed? It's because we listen to evil. Some of them were pedophiles like Michel Foucault, philosophers who said that if Europe was ever armed again, there would be 1 million Holocausts. Guess who that shit came from originally? The same people who would matriculate their way into the International Holocaust Museum over time and become the new backbone for world censorship and disarmament of noble and just people while they get stabbed in their own parks and they have to witness atrocities that are consequence of imbalanced decisions made by these exact people. These people who thought that if you disarmed every European, then they swore the European blood would never da-da-da-da-da. Meanwhile, there are guns all over the Mediterranean. The Mediterranean is absolutely flooded with fucking guns. And like, the European people are naturally nice, so it's no consequence that the consequence. It's no coincidence. The consequence is the fact that our world is tremendously worse off because if the people in Europe did have guns, they'd be able to stop these fucking Italian shitheads and these fucking Turks from being absolute monsters. Southern Italy is full of pedophilic, murdering scumbags who would torture your grandmother to get a couple of fucking bucks. Like, really? Really? I'm allowed to hate Italians until they get their shit together, alright? So, on to something a little bit more light. My favorite game is EU4. Majapahit is my favorite nation to play. They had an enormous and fierce population historically, and the reason why they had like 2.5 million people in the 1400s is because the most rich areas to farm are areas around volcanoes. Now, we have certain nitrogen extraction tactics now that can allow us to capture nitrogen from the air, but then you got your phosphorus, then you got your magnesium, then you got your other trace minerals that are necessary for growing healthy and robust crops, and all of that comes out of volcanoes. The Azores is full of rich, rich fields, crops, and cows. There's like 40% of the cheese production for milk and dairy production for Portugal because they're such a rich nation because they're a volcanic island, you see. That's where Andy Worski came from, is the Azores. It looks like a beautiful place. Kind of like Madeiras, but a little bit more developed. Also, Madeiras is owned by Spain. At least I think. Wales and Australia are beautiful places. You know, the British in their hearts are good. To quote Conan the Barbarian, civilized men are more discourteous than savages. They know that they can insult people without having their skulls split. You see. That's how a lot of this goes. That's how a lot of this modern shit goes, but that's ultimately not a excuse for barbarianism. It's an excuse for pragmatic, tactical operations. It's as simple as that. PTO, I guess. I watched a Fist of the North Star lore video last night on a Conan channel. Grimdark Half Off, check him out. He's battling cancer, he's kicking his ass. Hopefully he's doing great, but the medicine that he's on is so fucking expensive, it's ridiculous. It's weird how JoJo's Bizarre Adventure started off as a Fist of the North Star, kind of like take, but with comedy. But then over time, it turned into the gayest thing on the planet. Like, ugh. Major fall off in the half of the second season. Major fall. Like, I actually stopped watching it in the half of the second season because I started to see the anime shit start to creep in there, and I was just like, nope. As soon as I saw the anime shit, I was just like, poof, closing the door on that. The first one was okay, but like if you compare it to Fist of the North Star, it's not nearly as good. So I'm not going to listen to the fake polls that talk about how good the new JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is. I'm just not going to see it. I'm just going to be content to watch exclusively anime from the 90s that I can trust, that I know, that has made its way through the net, and none of this new shit is worth anything. It's going to be animated by AI soon. Yeah, I hope and pray every single fucking pedophile anime and manga writer that has gotten money for doing that is replaced and then dies in a fucking ditch. That's what I hope. Genuinely hope that. I hope that and I pray that. Because that shit has destroyed young Gen Z. It didn't hit millennials as hard because the time the real bad anime started to come out, millennials were already like 25. But that shit destroyed Gen Z. I'm serious. I've known Gen Zers that have like had their brains melted by modern anime. It sucks. I actually went to anime club when I was in high school, but I didn't do it for the anime. I did it because I had a crush on the girl that was operating the club, and it was operated in my favorite teacher's classroom too, Mr. Henley. Mr. Henley, who works down at Ace Hardware and is a wonderful, wonderful man. And I don't think he knew what he was getting into when he decided to host the anime club. I really don't. Because it was cringe. So I wouldn't even say that old anime is good. I wouldn't even say that millennials didn't get hit by bad anime, because they totally did. Mostly the girls. You know, I think one time they showed the Black Butler show, and I couldn't come back to Anime Club after that. I continued to stay in touch with that girl, but she ended up shacking up with some soy boy, and I ended up getting into a fight with her, and that was the last time. Not over that, but like over politics. She was particularly progressive and left-leaning, and one day I just went off on her page, and, well, that was that. She told me not to, so she warned me. That was kind. But instead, I just spoke on it, and yeah, not friends with her anymore. That actually happened to a lot of people. I was very brazen on my Facebook, and I ended up like driving away tons and tons of my friends, but ultimately, I stopped talking to a ton of people because I started to do things like insulting the CIA director, Mike Pompeo, who is a bitch and is not in the cabinet anymore and is still baying for the blood of Palestinian children to this day. And other people online, like powerful people online. So when I walked into Kiwi Farms, I actually did have a little bit of both experience, but also like I viewed. Okay, so here's how this worked. I was a fan of Noel's podcast. I had listened to it for like a year before I joined. I was lurking on Kiwi Farms for like 2 or 3 years before I joined. And I had a lot different opinion of the website than was reality when I first joined it, which is I thought it was a genuinely scary place where genuinely intelligent people could, you know, hack their way into people's personal data. I didn't know that most of it, vast majority of it, in fact, almost all of it, was shit that people shared themselves. It's gotten, as I said, severely worse, but there is a chance that it's darkest before the dawn and bounces back up. You know? I prayed for it a lot. I prayed for Noel. I prayed for the success of the farms. I prayed for the health of the girl that I had a crush on when I thought that she had cancer, but she actually didn't, and that was a little embarrassing. She was actually a little insulted when she found out that I thought she had cancer, but my prayers were answered. She didn't. Hooray! Well, if there's any advice I'll tender that's worth a damn on this episode, never sell out. That's it. Take care.